What's up, guys? Welcome into a brand new episode of Chargers Weekly. We're at joint practices with the San Francisco 49ers. We got media everywhere. Mark Sanchez, Fox Sports, joining us, the Trojan. What's up, brother? How are you?
Couldn't be any better. This is exactly what I want to be doing today, man. Watching two really good ball clubs go at it and compete. This is great.
I was going to say, it's exactly what you want to be doing. You don't want to be in this heat practicing,
No.
What do you remember about training camp?
I remember those days up in Cortland. It was hot just like this, even more muggy than this. But those sweaty dog days at training camp, that's where you got to kind of create your own juice and motivate guys. And I see this young quarterback, 10, Herbert, looking great, man. And he just looks so comfortable. And so a lot of great memories, a lot of connective tissue with scouts and people from the Jets that you guys have here. So that's it's always fun to go down memory lane like that.
I saw you in the middle of the fields. Obviously, we got the Niners on one side, the Chargers on the other. They switch up offense and defense.
Yep.
What were your observations just from the last 2 hours here?
Yeah, what's the best is, they staggered the huddles just a little bit, so it's nice to be in the middle. And it's almost like watching Red Zone, the Red Zone channel. You're kind of watching both. The hardest thing was keeping up with two 2-minute drills at the same time. That's a lot of work because you're trying to remember, okay, who's got all the timeouts? Okay, what's your situation? Are you trying to score? Are you trying to get a field goal? Whatever it was. But I thought Herbert did a great job leading him down for that field goal at the end there. Understood exactly where he needed to get, understood the situation. He had like a second and long, knew he didn't need to get all of it. They were going to come back on third down and potentially fourth down. And he did a great job just checking it down, getting it underneath, and setting up the field goal team. And I thought Trey Lance did the same thing.
Yeah.
They had about 17 seconds, no timeouts left, and Shanahan ran it just to get us a couple more yards for the field goal, and kind of caught the defense off guard just for a second. Gained a couple yards, made it an easy field goal for Robbie Gould. But the thing I did notice too with Trey. When you clock that ball at the end, you don't have timeouts. You got to clock it with 4 seconds or less, and he knew exactly what to do. As soon as he said clock, he was staring at the shot clock, so they don't get another play after your field goal. And little things like that you pick up on, especially as a former quarterback, and it's good to see those guys executing like that.
What I think is so cool is you're one of very few that know what Trey Lance is going through, what Justin Herbert's going through.
Yeah.
You were drafted 5 overall?
5th overall, yeah.
5th overall.
5th overall.
So what, Lance was 3, Justin was 6.
Yeah.
So to see, let's just start with number 10 out here, to see how he started his rookie year out of nowhere, week 2.
Oh, yeah.
And to play the way he did with no offseason program. You had a similar start to your season where you guys went deep into the playoffs.
Oh, yeah.
Your impressions of Justin just
Sure.
from year 1 going into year 2 here?
Of course. I think one of the craziest things that people don't really understand is you're a 22-year-old kid, and you're in college, and overnight your entire life changes, right? Now you're expected to be the face of a franchise. You got $50 million in your bank account, and you're expected to make decisions like a 65-year-old Supreme Court justice, right? And that's unrealistic. You're still a kid. So it's such a big jump and such a big transition. What's up, babe? But I think he's handled it so well because, like you said, he had no offseason. He's learning on the fly, and to see flashes, that's what you want to see as a rookie, especially as a quarterback. Just see some flash. Show me some flashes that it's there. And then pretty soon you'll get more consistent with that. But he looks so comfortable already, understanding situations, competing his ass off. And the best part about it is he doesn't even know. He doesn't even realize how good he is.
He's scratching the surface.
In some way, that's one of the most refreshing things about it, because you get a lot of guys nowadays that are, on their Instagram a bunch or TikTok this and that. And this kid is just like so dialed, so focused, and doesn't even realize how good he is, which is crazy. I mean, he's got every club in the bag, right? He's got every throw in the bag. And he's still learning. He's like a little puppy. He's finally getting coaching that he never got necessarily in college because they had so many different coordinators. He was learning a new system every year. And all the new coordinator does is come in and say, okay, what does he do well? He throws well on the run, he can do read option, and he can chuck it a mile. Great, we'll do that. But nobody taught him to play the position. Nobody really explained it. And I mean, with this coach now coming over from the Saints, that's huge.
Yeah, and that's what's so interesting too is he had to learn a new offense this offseason,
Yes.
right? Joe
Yes.
Lombardi's offense. Drew Brees
Yes.
was at camp this offseason and talking about how complex that system
Yep.
is. But when you have somebody as smart as Justin, and Coach Staley, I think, has said it best. He's like, we're going to make the offense Justin's. We're not going to make him conform to a system. And I think you're starting to see just each and every day out here. And I think today and Friday, and you let me know the importance of joint practices,
yes.
especially when you're not going to play in the preseason.
It's the best.
Like, these are crucial for Justin ahead of week 1.
These are as close to live reps as you get. This is better than preseason games, in my opinion.
In what ways is it better?
Because you get so many more reps, live action, a lot of situations right away, just like a game without the, it's almost like thud tempo, but I mean, they're competing harder, it looks like here, than you do in a preseason game,
sure.
Because everybody's just trying not to get hurt and let's just make it through the preseason, get to regular season. These guys are grinding in these practices, and you get the best film. You get the best film from these because
you're going to get the same dudes for 2 straight weeks too, right?
And it's, I just feel like it's the best form of competition in training camp is to do the joint practice. You get to see all your buds on the other team. It's fun off the field, but you get on the field, get in between the white lines, get after it, and we definitely saw that.
The one-on-ones going Keenan
They
Allen,
got a little
Jason
heated.
Verrett.
Yeah.
I mean, it just the intensity has ratcheted up a little bit from the first 15 days of camp or so. This Chargers team in general, we talked about Justin. Joe Lombardi comes over from New Orleans. Obviously, head coach Brandon Staley. The return of Derwin James, Joey Bosa, Drew Tranquill, Kenneth Murray. There's a lot of names on this team. And I know Coach Staley's goal was to just bring this thing together this offseason. Your impressions of what the Chargers did in an effort to improve upon 7 and 9 and try to get to the postseason?
Well, I think the most important thing is getting that quarterback, comfortable. And to get Lombardi from the Saints with all of his experience with Drew and Sean Payton, you couldn't have picked a better guy with a great pedigree, and he's going to help Justin be the Justin Herbert that they want him to be. And he's already showing flashes. He's going to start doing it more consistently. Then you look across the board at guys getting healthy. Derwin James, that dude's a freak. He wears the headset on defense.
He's got the dot.
Yes.
He's got the green dot.
Usually it's a backer, right? That just tells you how much he knows the game, how much he studies.
He plays
and this defense ain't easy to master now. Like Coach Staley's got some tricks up his sleeve. He makes it tough on quarterbacks. We went against him a bunch when he was in Chicago with Vic Fangio, and he'll make you pull your hair out, man. It's frustrating to play against that guy. So to see Derwin balling like this, getting healthy, we plan this. This is perfect.
Let's go.
Hey,
Here we
welcome
go.
to my show. Welcome to my show.
We're literally
with the
talking about you right now.
What up, man?
We're talking all kind of bad about you too. All kind of bad about you.
What up?
Yeah, but
you never know who's going to show up.
And he's just such a joy, man. He's like one of those guys who's just
infectious.
A great locker room guy, infectious personality, smiling all the time, works his butt off. He's fun to watch.
I don't care how many times I say it on this podcast. There's no coincidence they won 12 games with him as a rookie.
Oh, no doubt.
First team All-Pro.
Yep.
And when he was lost each of the last 2 years, the energy, not just on the defense.
Oh, yeah.
All 53 guys feed off of number 33.
No doubt.
Just a couple more for you, Mark. Your year, from year 1 to year 2, what did you pick up the most? How did things slow down for you, and in what ways did you make a jump?
One of the biggest things was protections, really understanding protections and run game checks, because we didn't do a ton of it at SC. We did plenty, but it goes to like a next level. When you have to re-mic ID, basically re-identify the defense's our starting point on offense to block, you make new mics on run plays, that was different for me, and that took a lot. That took a lot of work, a lot of studying. And then the next thing was protections, understanding based on the situation, but like where am I vulnerable, right? When do I have time, and when do I need to get this ball out of my hand quick? Those were the big things going into my second year. I remember from year 1 to year 2, and then when you have a guy like Justin, like you're not worrying about his arm strength, you're not worried about his footwork, you're not worried about, you clean those up as you go, and you make little tweaks here and there, but he's got all that stuff, man. So he's on to the next thing, and I guarantee they're teaching them a ton about protections and situations, because there were a couple games last year where things come down to the wire.
That's it.
Clock management stuff, understanding, okay, how long is it going to take for the field goal team to get out here? Do we have a timeout? Do we not have a timeout? When are we clocking the ball? How much time? All that is so important, and he's going to master that.
Final thing, you got a new team this year, Fox Sports.
That's right.
Tell everybody what you're going to be doing.
Yeah, so I'll be in the booth with Kevin Kugler. We'll have 17 games.
Let's go.
Our
Do you
first
know,
game.
Your first assignment?
I have my first 4. So my first one is San Fran at Detroit, which makes this great.
Yeah.
And then let's see, we go Cincy at Chicago, Seattle at Minnesota, and then Washington at Atlanta.
Okay.
So those are my first 4, and then they'll give us our next set. Probably week 2.
Crossing my fingers, we get a Chargers guy.
Hey, that'd make it easy. I could just drive up the highway. That'd be nice.
That's it.
That'd be nice.
Mark Sanchez, always appreciate the time, man.
Yes, sir.
Awesome to see you here, and congrats on the gig.
Appreciate you,
bro.
buddy. Thank you.
All right, man. All right, as we roll on here on Chargers Weekly, day 1 of joint practices with the 49ers in the books. Here with one of my favorite guests. He's been on a few times, Jim Trotter, NFL Network.
Wait, did you tell him I pay you to say that? One of your favorite guests? Did you tell him?
He is one of my favorite guests. I didn't tell.
I appreciate
You really
that.
are, though, man.
I appreciate
you were one of the first, and I haven't seen you in person, and I feel like 2 seasons.
I feel like I haven't seen anyone in 2 seasons.
How did it feel to be out here?
It's tremendous. Outside of the Hall of Fame week, training camps are my favorite because you have access to people. People are a little more relaxed in terms of, you're not game planning. There's no win-loss coming up, that sort of thing. So I love it. But, this pandemic thing was hard, man, because for me personally, I think it was 16 months I was on lockdown where no travel at all, and so you go from almost flying every week someplace to all of a sudden for a year and a half, nothing.
Couldn't even imagine, because, how many years have you been going to games?
I started covering the NFL in '96.
So
the funny thing was last year, so the first 2 weeks, they sent me up to SoFi to cover the Rams opener and the Chargers opener. And finally, I just said to my boss, why are we going to these games? Not just SoFi, but anywhere. I said, we have no access to players. We have no access to coaches. After the game, there's no access to the locker room. You're doing everything by Zoom. So I said, you could essentially be home on your couch watching the game and do the Zoom call. And from that point forward, that's what we did. And for me personally, it just wasn't, and look, I get we had to play games and all that, but for me, it just wasn't football. The fans are such a big part of the game and that energy, on a Sunday. I knew that, but I didn't really know it until I experienced sitting in an empty stadium watching games. It was hard. And to hear, Aaron Donald after that opener say it was like he felt like he was back in Pop Warner where he could hear his parents calling out his name from the stands.
That's right.
It's just crazy.
It was eerie to go to SoFi Stadium last year, and the place is gigantic. I knew how to get from point A to point B, right? Like one place, go to the press box, come back. There's no fans in the stands. There's no energy, like you said. And then to go to the game on Saturday and see, 50, 60,000 people in there, it's like you finally appreciate SoFi Stadium.
Yeah.
Not only, is it gorgeous and big at a palace, but the fans are the energy. They make that thing go. So you're right. Like watching the games last year on TV, I thought they did a pretty good job with the television product. But like if you're there, it was like a scrimmage. It was like a practice.
It was hard. It's just, and again, I'm not in any way complaining about it in terms of trying to put anyone down or demean anything. But it just wasn't real football to me. It wasn't NFL football without those fans there. So to have them back, and look, I don't want to get into the whole COVID debate and all of that here. I just wish people would be smart so that we can make sure we have full stadiums this coming season, because when you look at the numbers and how they're trending, my fear is that there are going to be municipalities that say, you know what, these numbers are going in the wrong direction, and therefore we can't have groups of people that, 70,000 people in an enclosed environment. So I just wish that people would be smart about this and so that we can truly enjoy football the way it's meant to be enjoyed.
Yeah, and if
beyond the obvious of staying healthy,
Absolutely, and if you're going to the game on Sunday, masks are required now at SoFi Stadium. So take that into consideration when you go. Jim, these joint practices, a number of Charger starters aren't going to play in the preseason, so you could argue today and tomorrow may be the best work they get in preparation for week one, just because it's a different opponent. You're scheming against somebody different. You've been hitting the same people for 2 straight weeks. In talking to players and front office members, coaches, how important are these 2 days, or when you bring another team coming in from out of town?
No, they're extremely important because this is the new NFL. We're seeing the elimination of preseason games as we go forward.
Sure.
There are going to be fewer and fewer, and so you have to find a way to get in the work and to get the evaluations that you need. So these sorts of things are critical for clubs, and clubs are being smart about it. If you have guys who are hurt or coming back from injury and whatnot, you're not going to subject them to this or put them in harm's way. But for those who are healthy and who need the work, it's important. It's funny, I saw someone, I'm trying to remember who it was, but somebody was saying that someone didn't look good, this prominent player didn't look good in practice, and this, that, and the other. And all it did for me was take me back to one of my first few years in the league as a beat writer, and it may have been my rookie year. And I remember the Chargers went out and signed this free agent cornerback. I think made him one of the highest paid cornerbacks in the NFL. So we get to training camp, and I'm watching him in practice, and he's awful. I mean, just god awful. And I'm to the point where I'm thinking, I'm going to have to write a story saying they signed a bust. And then I remember asking, it was actually Junior Seau at that time, who was the leader of the defense. I said, hey, what's going on here? I'm like, this guy's terrible. And it was Junior who said to me, and this is something I try and convey to fans, he said, you have to understand, veteran players in practice in training camp work on their weaknesses. They don't work on their strengths. Yeah. And so they're going to look bad so that by the time they get to the regular season and get to Sunday, those things that they struggled with hopefully won't be as prominent.
That's a great point.
End of the story. The player was Ryan McNeil. That year, he goes out and leads the NFL in interceptions. Imagine how stupid I would have looked, even more stupid, if I had written that story. So I say that's why these things are valuable, because it gives players an opportunity, particularly veteran players, prominent players, to work on things against other players to try and eliminate or reduce some of the weaknesses they have in their game.
We live in such a reactionary society, too, where I think Zach Wilson of the Jets said something very similar last week, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
I may be paraphrasing, but he said, I'm trying things in practice because I want to see what I can get away with.
That's exactly what he said.
Yeah, and I think that's so important for context. Like, sometimes we see a 15-second highlight on Twitter or Instagram, and we think, like, that's what happened in practice. It's completely the opposite in many ways.
No, and Zach, I thought that was so it was so important and so mature in terms of him having that perspective as a first-year player to say, I want to learn what I can get away with here where it's not costing us games, as opposed to learning in a game where we end up losing. So now we'll see if that carries over.
Of course.
But just for him to have that mindset, that train of thought, is huge. So, I mean, this is what I love about training camp, is that you get to have these sort of discussions that maybe you can't have during the regular season. Again, where everything is about that upcoming opponent and whatnot. And training camp is great for me because you can just talk to people in sort of a relaxed environment. You can bounce around. Like today, you can go from Chris Harris to Derwin James to Keenan Allen to Tom Telesco to whoever. Well, during a season, at least at a practice, you're not going to be able to do that.
Doesn't happen. Yeah.
No, so no, these are valuable. I couldn't be more happy to be out here, and I just hope that we all stay safe and we get through this season.
Let me ask you about this Chargers team. A lot of new coaching staff. Obviously, Justin Herbert in his second year. You're hoping Derwin James is there for all 17 this year.
I got to get used to saying that 17.
I know. It's taken me a while. I think I hit my stride last week. So
okay. I still say 16.
I have been. Bosa. Just your thoughts on what the Chargers did this offseason. They shored up the offensive line in an effort to not only help protect Justin, but I think maybe open up some running lanes and maybe sustain drives that way with the running backs.
Yeah, look, I feel like we say this every year about the Chargers. One of the most talented rosters on paper in the NFL.
Yeah.
And then there's always something that seems to happen, particularly from a health standpoint, that prevents them from I think, achieving whatever their potential truly is. And I think this year is the same thing. You look at their roster on paper, it is one of the best in the NFL. Now, they play in arguably one of the toughest two divisions in the NFL. I think you can go back and forth on whether the AFC West or the NFC West is the tougher division in the league. But this team is stacked. Yeah. And if it stays healthy, there's no reason that it can't challenge for a division title and more. So I'm excited. You know, this thing about the change in coaches and whatnot, like I don't have enough to say what to really think. You know, they're all so young. I feel like I don't know them. You know, I still have yet to meet Coach Staley. I will here shortly, but you know, I didn't do any Rams games last year to that point where I needed to speak with him. But from a personnel standpoint, in terms of the players, everything you need to win a championship is here. Mm-hmm. The question is, can you keep them healthy and can you put it all together? And that's what we love about this game, trying to get that answer.
Absolutely. I loved, you know, going into this when they decided to make a change of head coach. A lot of people thought you're going to bring in an offensive mind to build and grow together with Justin Herbert. I like the fact that there's a concerted effort to make this defense live up to that potential that we always talk about. And when you have guys like Derwin and Kenneth and Drew Tranquill coming back and Joey, and you look at what Staley did last year with guys like John Johnson and Ramsey and Donald, there's some excitement there. Obviously, we haven't seen it yet. But offensively, you know, you bring in Joe Lombardi, and Joe has that experience with Drew Brees and Sean Payton. And one of the things I just talked to Mark Sanchez about is it's a complicated offensive scheme, but they've been very steadfast in saying they want to make this Justin Herbert's offense. So whatever percentage of that maybe Saints playbook that Justin does well, you know, Justin's such a smart kid that, you know, we'll see how quickly he picks it up. By all indications, you know, he's doing a good job this offseason.
Yeah, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I was a little surprised that they not only didn't retain more of the offensive staff, but that they didn't even interview some of these guys to come back. You know, when you look at what the team was able to accomplish with Justin Herbert last year, with Shane and with Pep, from an outsider's point of view, it would have made sense to bring those guys back, but Coach Staley thought otherwise, and I get that, so I'm not here to judge yet because we haven't seen.
Sure.
But I think it's smart to say that we're going to build this offense, make it tailor it specifically to what Justin's strengths are, and to make him comfortable. Because if he's comfortable, again, the talent is here to go a long way.
Last thing for you, Jim, the AFC, there's a lot of teams, but I really can't pinpoint who, other than Kansas City, who's on top. I mean, you got Buffalo, you got Cleveland, people are talking about.
Cleveland stacked.
Cleveland stacked. I mean, who knows? Maybe a team like Miami improves. You know, the Broncos seem to have everything but maybe the quarterback. We'll see what happens with Locke and Bridgewater. Yeah. What do you make of that conference in particular, and how do you think the Chargers fit into that equation? I think you alluded to a little bit. If they're healthy, they could challenge Kansas City.
Oh, if they're healthy, they can not only challenge Kansas City, but challenge for a Lombardi trophy. This roster is stacked. You tell me where the weaknesses are. You know, the most important position on a team is a quarterback. They've got that. They've got, you know, what we've seen thus far from the offensive line, the upgrades that have been made. There's a lot of optimism there that unit's going to be really productive and efficient.
You know, last year was special teams, and that lost them quite a few games. And if they can get that unit turned around. Exactly,
and that's the key, because we know defensively, again, if everyone's healthy, what that unit's going to be like. So the AFC is fun.
It is fun. It's fun when you don't really know.
Yeah, and that's what I love about this is what makes the NFL to me, and I think to so many fans, must-see TV. Because every week, you know, if you're not on your game, you can get beat. And these teams at the top, like I can give you storylines about all of the clubs that you mentioned, about why they can win a championship. I can also present to you maybe why they might fall short. That's just what makes it fun to see how it all plays out. You know, I was in Cleveland earlier, not off season, but training camp, and there's a vibe. And you once you've been around the league a while, you can tell when it's genuine, when teams really feel that they're ready to make that run. And it's not just this sort of false optimism or coach speak or whatever. And in Cleveland, it's real, and then you look at the roster again and the moves they made this offseason. They're going to be heck to deal with. Baltimore's always well coached by John Harbaugh and his staff. Yeah. They're not going anywhere.
Chargers play the Browns week 5, Ravens week 6.
Yeah, and it's going to be fun. And like I say, this division where you got to play each of these teams twice, there's not a gimme anywhere on there when you talk about this division. So one thing we know about the Raiders, at least in recent years under Gruden, is that they've started fast and faded down the stretch. So what's that going to look like this year? The Chiefs redid their entire offensive line for the most part, with the focus on keeping Patrick Mahomes upright.
It's
and
amazing
healthy.
Both the Chargers and Chiefs have like 8 to 10 starters that are new.
So, well, and new starters, I'm off topic here, but look at the Browns. They could have potentially 9 new starters on defense on one unit alone, coming off a playoff appearance where you actually won a playoff game.
That's incredible.
I've never heard of that. Even Kevin Stefanski couldn't come up with a comparable example. And yet those, on paper, you say they're a lot better than they were a year ago on that side of the ball. So, see, you're getting me going here because I'm excited. I'm like, let's go play. Let's get to week 1, So, even Tennessee made some changes down there, and you bring in Julio. What's that going to look like? I'm ready.
I mean, with the whole Wentz equation there.
Out of all these clubs we talk about, that's the one where I feel like I can't jump on board yet. If you don't have that quarterback situation nailed down, it's hard for me to believe you're going to make any sort of run in this league. So for that reason alone, I think Indy has a lot of talent, but I can't jump on the board of saying the bandwagon of saying that's a Super Bowl team.
Yeah. This is what it's all about, Jim. I love being out here. I love seeing you in person. What do you got going on here over the next few weeks? Where can people find your work?
NFL.com and NFL Network, and just kind of bouncing around a little bit, getting ready for week 1.
Do you know where you're going to be week 1?
Yeah, actually I'll be at SoFi. I'll be there for, I think it's the Rams-Bears.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'll be there week 1, and so it'll give me an opportunity to compare week 1 last year in SoFi versus week 1 this year, which I think is going to be dramatically different.
I would say so.
Yeah, so I'm looking forward to that.
Jim, appreciate it, man. And that's going to do it for us, guys. A big thanks to Jim Trotter, Mark Sanchez for joining me. Be sure to download and subscribe to the Chargers Podcast Network, wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also on YouTube every Thursday, also on Chargers.com. If you're out at SoFi on Sunday, come say hi. Have a great weekend, and until next time, I'm Chris Hayre.